So if money is the shadow, then who are you really? Are you the echo of someone else's fear? Or are you the architect of something greater than wealth, a life that radiates value? Because make no mistake, you don't attract money with talk. You attract it with transformation, and not the kind of transformation that looks good on camera. The kind that happens in the dark, in the early mornings, in the lonely nights, in the quiet decisions no one sees but everything feels. The shadow grows when you grow, not when you post, not when you wish, not when you visualize without action, but when you become someone who can hold weight emotionally, intellectually, financially, spiritually. And let's be honest, if $1 million landed in your lap tomorrow, would you know what to do with it? Would your habits protect it? Would your vision expand it? Would your character deserve it? Or would it expose the cracks in your foundation? Because money magnifies the person holding it. It doesn't change you, it reveals you. So if you don't like what you see in your financial life, don't just change your income. Change your internal framework, your mindset, your self-worth, your strategy, your standards. And the first shift must happen here. Mindset, because a scarcity mind produces a scarcity life. Scarcity says, there's never enough. Abundance says, there's always more when I become more. Scarcity blames. Abundance builds. Scarcity complains. Abundance creates. Scarcity sees problems. Abundance sees systems to be built, solutions to be monetized, lives to be changed. You don't rise financially until you rise mentally. The most powerful question you can ask yourself daily is, who am I becoming right now in this very decision? Not what am I doing, not how much am I making, but who am I becoming? Because money flows to identity. The person who sees themselves as worthy builds worth. The person who sees themselves as a leader leads. The person who sees themselves as a problem solver finds opportunity. Your income rarely exceeds your identity. So if you want to earn more, become more valuable to more people more often, in more meaningful ways, that's not just mindset, that's belief. You must believe you were made to move mountains. You must believe your time is expensive, because it is. You must believe that the marketplace needs your solution, and that it is your obligation to refine it until it's so good they can't ignore it. But belief alone is never enough. Belief without clarity is a loaded weapon in a dark room. So you must get clear, razor sharp on what value actually means in this economy. What do people need? What do they hate doing? What do they pay to avoid? What do they desperately want, but can't figure out? That's where your shadow begins. Not in what you like, but in what the world needs from someone like you, delivered in a way only you can. And when you combine belief with clarity, you become dangerous. Your energy shifts. You're not guessing anymore. You're building on purpose. And that clarity turns into vision, not vague ideas, not one-day goals, but compelling pictures of the future you are moving towards so powerfully that the present has no choice but to catch up. You begin to act like the version of you who's already there. You start making decisions as if it's already done. And people around you feel it. Because nothing is more magnetic than a human being with direction. Not talent, not good looks, not charm. Direction, conviction, certainty. And that certainty is what allows you to access the next layer purpose. Because this isn't just about cash. It's about contribution. It's about legacy. It's about creating something so rooted in your soul, so powerful in its execution, that money becomes a side effect of how deeply you've served the world. People can feel purpose. It's a vibration. And when you combine purpose with skill, with precision, with fire, you become undeniable. So stop chasing money. Start chasing mastery. Mastery in your words. Mastery in your work. Mastery in your daily discipline. Because every day you choose mastery, you expand the shadow. And discipline is the key. Discipline is doing it when you don't feel like it. It's not glamorous. It's not easy. It's not always fun. But discipline is the contract you sign with your future self saying, I will not let you down. You want more income? Start tracking your inputs. Start tracking your execution rate. Start looking at how many reps you actually put in on the things that matter. Not the busy work, not the dopamine chasing, the value creation work, the uncomfortable calls, the deep thinking, the skill development, the boring work that builds the beautiful life. Because success is built in the hours no one sees, in the reps no one celebrates, in the silence where most people quit and you keep building. Discipline is the currency of every champion you admire. And your discipline becomes visible in your results. And when discipline becomes your rhythm, action becomes your language. Because knowledge without action is poverty. Belief without movement is fantasy. Plans without execution are just pretty lies we tell ourselves. Action is where the real money lives. Not in theories, not in dreams, not in 20 open tabs of productivity hacks. Money rewards the doers, the ones who step into the arena, the ones who ship the product, make the call, pitch the deal, build the team, press record, raise their hand, open the door, burn the boat. The world doesn't need more dreamers. It needs more builders, because builders own the future. Builders become the standard. And builders don't wait for approval. They build with bloody knuckles and bruised egos and relentless hearts. That's how the shadow grows from action, not analysis. So ask yourself, are you consuming or creating? Are you watching others win? Or are you in the ring, swinging, missing, learning, evolving? Because every step you take in aligned action stretches your capacity. You become more useful, more skilled, more experienced, more valuable. And the money follows. Not always fast, not always loud, but always eventually. Because the universe pays those who move. And once you've moved long enough, you start to feel something deeper awaken in you. Gratitude. Gratitude not just for the results, but for the process itself. You begin to see that all the pressure, the sleepless nights, the early mornings, the rejections, the failures, they weren't punishment. They were preparation. They shaped you. They stripped away weakness. They sharpened your instincts. They taught you patience. They built the kind of resilience that can hold wealth without crumbling under its weight. And that gratitude, it's not soft. It's not fluffy. It's fierce. It's a fire in your chest that says, thank you for the struggle. Thank you for the resistance. Thank you for the hard. Because the hard is what made me ready. Gratitude turns pressure into purpose. It takes struggle and baptizes it into strength. And from that place of strength, you begin to evolve into something the world is starving for. Adaptable. You stop fearing change because you've outgrown the need for certainty. You've built your identity on something deeper than trends and tactics. You are fluid. You are focused. You are able to adjust your strategy without losing your soul. And that is value in its purest form, because the marketplace will always shift, but the adaptable rise. The ones who cling collapse. The ones who evolve expand. You don't resist change. You ride it. You dance with it. You leverage it. Because money moves to those who can solve today's problems, not yesterday's. And that's where most people lose. They fall in love with how it used to work while the world moves on. But not you. You've trained for this. You expect the storm, and you build your house with deeper roots, not taller walls. So while others are shaken, you stand. And when you stand long enough, when you act long enough, when you evolve long enough, you become resilient. not just mentally, not just emotionally, but financially. You stop panicking at downturns. You stop freezing when plans fall apart. You stop begging for backup because you've become the backup. You don't hope to recover. You expect to rise because you've seen what you're made of now. You've seen what you can take, what you can bounce back from, what you can build from nothing. And that kind of resilience, it multiplies your value faster than any certification, strategy, or shortcut ever could. Because everyone wants someone who's consistent when things go wrong. Everyone pays top dollar for the person who stays calm in chaos, who makes decisions under pressure, who keeps their word when it's costly. That's value. That's money in motion. That's the kind of shadow that never stops following you because you earned it in the trenches. And as your resilience sharpens, as your actions compound, as your adaptability anchors you deeper, you cross a threshold. You stop working for money and start attracting it, not by magic, not by luck, but by principle, by becoming the kind of person money trusts, the kind of person the marketplace remembers, the kind of person people want to follow, buy from, partner with, build with. Because now you are no longer operating from pressure. You're operating from power. Power that came from pain. Power that came from practice. Power that came from doing the boring work, the scary work, the lonely work, until it became your nature. Now, your habits move like clockwork. Your words hit with weight. Your presence shifts energy. Your decisions move markets. Even if it's just the market of your own life. You have become the kind of person whose internal world is so fortified that nothing outside can shake it. And that's wealth. Not the money in the account, but the calm in your chest. Not the house you bought, but the man or woman you became to earn it. That's why we say, money is the shadow, not the source, not the identity, not the goal. It is the natural consequence of alignment. Alignment between your values and your habits, your thoughts and your actions, your words and your results. And when you live in that alignment, money shows up as a confirmation, not a craving. It becomes proof that your impact is real, that your growth is visible, that your service matters. So how do you build this alignment? You learn. You study the game. You become obsessed not with getting ahead of others, but with getting ahead of who you were yesterday. You read, you listen, you mentor, you reflect, and most importantly, you apply. You implement what you learn so relentlessly that your life becomes the evidence. Because information is not power. Applied information is, and every time you apply, you expand. You stretch your mind. You sharpen your execution. You deepen your value until one day you look back and realize you no longer fear money. You no longer chase money. You no longer shrink when others talk about wealth because you understand it now. It's not mystery. It's not myth. It's mechanics. It's cause and effect. It's value and exchange. It's energy and flow. And you become someone who moves in that flow, not from desperation, but from dominion. You lead your life. You lead your time. You lead your energy. And because of that, money follows. Because you've built yourself into someone the world can't ignore. So what now? Now, you multiply. You take the mindset, the belief, the clarity, the discipline, the resilience, and you begin to scale your value. You scale it through systems, through leverage, through impact. You teach. You mentor. You build structures that make money move without your presence. Because wealth is not about how hard you work. It's about how well you've built. It's about who and what keeps growing, even when you're asleep, even when you're resting, even when you're creating from peace instead of panic. That's when you step into your final evolution. Freedom. Not just the freedom to buy more things, but the freedom to be more of who you are, to do work that sets your soul on fire, to give from overflow, not obligation, to speak with clarity instead of filters, to build with boldness instead of fear, because you've done it the right way. You didn't fake the shadow. You didn't hack it. You earned it by becoming so grounded, so useful, so true to your principles that the shadow simply showed up, bigger than before, longer than before, following you wherever you walk, because now the light inside you is that strong. So now I ask you, will you chase the shadow, or will you become the kind of person who walks so tall, so real, so disciplined that the shadow has no choice but to grow? You know the answer, because you've already started. Now finish the job, become more, and let the money reflect what you already know. You've become someone the world pays attention to. You've become someone the world rewards. You've become someone who doesn't just earn money. You earn trust. You earn influence. You earn legacy, because you finally understand money is just the shadow of who you've become. When the storm hits, and it will, you will not rise by luck. You will not endure because you're brilliant or brave or built different. You will endure because you are anchored. Because when the winds of doubt howl and the tides of uncertainty rise, there is one thing buried deep beneath your feet that refuses to move. Purpose. Purpose is not motivation. Motivation is mood. Purpose is mission. Motivation is loud when the sun is out. Purpose whispers even in the dark. It is the compass when your map is soaked and torn. It is the route when the world tries to rip you out by force. It is the reason you get up after failure. It is the voice in your soul that says, we're not done yet, even when everything else says quit. Purpose is not a feeling. It's a force. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't seek comfort. It doesn't beg to be understood. It simply knows. It knows why you're here. It knows what you carry. It knows the weight you were designed to bear. It knows the path you were built to walk heaven when your eyes can't see it. Because purpose gives pain a name. It gives struggle a meaning. It turns suffering into fuel and delay into preparation. And the people who rise the highest are not the ones who avoided resistance. They're the ones who kept walking because their reason was stronger than their excuse. That's what makes you untouchable, and not perfection, but purpose. You don't fold under pressure when you're driven by something deeper than ego. You don't quit at the first sign of failure when your identity is rooted in why you began, not just what you want. Because when your why is weak, every excuse is strong. But when your why is undeniable, so are you. You become a storm within the storm. You become gravity. You become proof that a soul anchored in meaning cannot be moved by man. And the best part? Purpose doesn't come from the outside. No one gives it to you. You choose it. You dig for it. You define it. And once it's yours, it becomes your anchor, your edge, your engine. Because once you're anchored in purpose, you don't get pushed around by opinions. You don't get seduced by shortcuts. You don't get lost chasing approval from people who have no idea what you're building. Because now you're driven by meaning. And meaning rewrites your movements. It rewires your mind. It sharpens your priorities and eliminates the unnecessary. When you know why you're doing something, you stop flirting with distractions. You stop chasing what's impressive and start chasing what's true. You stop asking, what will people think of me? And start declaring, what was I built to carry? Because you were not built for the applause. You were built for the assignment. And every great assignment starts in silence, in stillness, in that deep inner clarity that says, this is who I am. This is what I'm here for. And I will not be moved. Purpose doesn't make the path easier. It makes it worth it. Because you will be tested. The world will try to seduce you with speed, with status, with surface level success. But surface will never satisfy a soul born for substance. And you know you were born for more, not more noise, more depth, not more followers, more fulfillment, not more visibility, more victory over self. That kind of life doesn't come from trying to look successful. It comes from living with meaning. And when your life is filled with meaning, you don't burn out, you burn brighter. Because your work becomes worship. Your discipline becomes devotion. Your grind becomes grounded. You're no longer running from failure, you're running toward purpose. And purpose? Purpose makes pain profitable. It makes obstacles, opportunities. It makes your suffering sacred. Because now, everything serves the mission. Even your scars, especially your scars. They are not marks of defeat, they are evidence of endurance. Proof that you stayed when others ran. Proof that you built roots, not just wings. Proof that when the storm came, you didn't get washed away because you were anchored. Because anchoring yourself in purpose doesn't just hold you in place, it launches you forward. It gives you a foundation so solid that you no longer live in reaction, you move in revelation. You are not tossed by trends. You are not shaken by setbacks. You are not derailed by delay. Because you know something the world has forgotten. Speed is fragile. Purpose is permanent. You don't need to get there fast. You need to get there rooted. And roots aren't visible. They're hidden. They're underground. They're unseen, but essential. No one claps for roots. But without them, everything falls. That's what purpose is. It's your roots. It's what keeps you grounded when the pressure rises, when the rewards don't come, when the journey feels unfair. It's what reminds you why you started when the emotion wears off. And here's the truth most won't tell you. The world will try to define your worth by your results. But purpose reminds you that your value comes from your resolve. Your willingness to stay, to serve, to show up with fire even when the lights are off and the crowd is gone. That's when the real transformation happens, not when it's easy, but when it's eternal. Because purpose doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you become while you do it. You become more focused, more resilient, more aligned, more immune to the noise. You no longer hustle for identity, you operate from it. You no longer beg for permission, you embody authority. And your purpose? It becomes the lens you see life through. You no longer ask, what do I feel like doing? You ask, what aligns with why I'm here? And that question slays every excuse. It slays fear. It slays laziness. It slays comparison. Because now, you're not trying to prove anything. You're walking in something that's already proven. And that is where peace lives. Not in achievement, in alignment. Because alignment is the new ambition. When your steps match your soul, you don't need hype to move, you move with honor. You move with urgency. Not because you're chasing something outside of you, but because you're honoring something inside of you. That's what separates the loud from the legendary. The loud are everywhere. They shout, they shine, they sprint for applause. But the legendary, they are anchored. You don't always see them, but you feel them. Their presence, their clarity, their unwavering focus. They're not driven by validation. They're driven by vision. Because purpose has given them a reason that outlasts emotion. And when your reason is bigger than your resistance, nothing can stop you. You stop negotiating with your calling. You stop editing your mission to make it more palatable. You stop shrinking your vision to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. You rise, not for status, for service. Because purpose demands that you give the world what only you carry. Not a copy, not a version, but the full expression of who you were designed to be. Unapologetic, unfiltered, unshaken. And that kind of purpose, it creates gravity. It pulls the right people the right opportunities, the right doors toward you, not because you begged for them, but because you became someone who's ready to walk through them. That's what happens when your life is built on purpose. You're no longer reactive, you're relentless. You're no longer seeking, you're seated. Seated in the truth of who you are. Seated in the knowing that you are not here to exist. You are here to build. You are here to impact. You are here to leave echoes that outlive your name. In all of that, it starts the moment you stop floating and drop the anchor. Then let us finish this not with whispers, but with fire, with the kind of truth that rewrites your walk forever. Because once you've dropped the anchor of purpose, you are no longer at the mercy of momentum. You no longer ride waves, you carve paths. You no longer hope the storm passes. You become the calm inside it. You no longer wait for clarity. You move with conviction. Purpose doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need a stage. It doesn't need permission. It just needs ownership. Because once you own your purpose, the world can't touch you. Distractions lose their power. Comparison loses its sting. Setbacks lose their grip. Because you are anchored, rooted, unshakable. And from that place, you don't just chase success, you build significance. You don't just grind for goals, you grow into greatness. And greatness, real greatness, is never about applause. It's about alignment. It's about integrity. It's about being able to look in the mirror and respect the one staring back. Not because they had it easy, but because they stayed true when it would have been easier to drift. So, now you face a choice, the same choice that all who rise must face. Drift with the tide or drop the anchor. Float with emotion or forge with meaning. Because storms will come. They're not a matter of if only when. And when they hit, what will hold you? Not your motivation, not your image, not your status. Only one thing keeps you standing when everything else shakes. Purpose. Purpose is the anchor that keeps you moving forward when the winds scream stop. Purpose is the root that holds your soul to the ground when the world offers you 100 exits. Purpose is the reason you'll rise when others fall, and the reason you'll keep rising when there's no applause left. So plant your feet, fix your focus, breathe deep, and drop the anchor. Because your future doesn't need a perfect plan. It needs a soul on fire with purpose. And that fire now, that it's lit, let it burn. Let it guide. Let it carry you forward with unbreakable direction. And let the world feel the power of a life that no longer floats aimlessly, but moves with force, moves with meaning, moves with purpose. Your life is not controlled by the events that happen to you. It's controlled by the thoughts you allow to happen inside of you. Because every battle you will ever fight, every dollar you will ever earn, every relationship you will ever build, every limit you will ever break, it all begins in the same place, the mind. And the mind is not a passive vessel. It is not neutral. It is not immune. It is a gate. And if you don't stand guard at that gate, everything gets in. The doubt, the fear, the opinions, the lies, the poison of a world addicted to noise. Your mind is a kingdom, and you are the king. You are the queen. You are the sovereign. And if you don't control what enters, don't be surprised when chaos reigns inside. You cannot plant weeds and expect flowers. You cannot consume junk and expect clarity. You cannot invite weakness and expect strength. This is not about intelligence. This is about awareness. Because what you're feeding your mind today is what will shape your decisions tomorrow. So if you don't like your results, you must inspect your inputs, not just your habits, your headspace. What are you letting in? Who are you listening to? What conversations are you entertaining? What content are you consuming? What voices are you allowing to redecorate your inner world? Because most people don't fail from lack of effort. They fail from mental clutter, from internal sabotage, from letting in every opinion, every limitation, every distraction dressed as entertainment. They fail because they never stood guard, because they left the door open, because they trusted that the world would feed them truth, instead of training themselves to feed it intentionally. Your mind is a fortress, but it only works if you protect it like your future depends on it, because it does. That means you don't let every headline in. You don't let every trend shape your thinking. You don't let every friend speak into your dream. You don't let random voices write your inner script. You choose. You curate. You filter. You build a mental gatekeeping system so strong that only what empowers enters. That's discipline. That's mental leadership. That's sovereignty. And no, it's not always comfortable. Because when you start guarding your mind, you will lose people. You will outgrow conversations. You will distance yourself from the drama. You will start to look focused while the world looks distracted. But that's the cost of clarity. That's the price of peace. That's the entrance fee to a life where your mind is not a battlefield, but a weapon. Because when your mind is sharp, your life follows. When your thoughts are pure, your decisions elevate. When your focus is guarded, your income reflects it. When your standards are high, your environment rises to meet them. That's how leaders are built. Not in the spotlight, in the silence, in the morning hours, in the moments no one sees when you say, "That doesn't get access to me." By that video, that conversation, that habit, that noise, not anymore. Because your life is a garden and your mind is the soil. You don't plant negativity and harvest peace. You don't plant confusion and harvest clarity. You don't plant entertainment and harvest results. You harvest what you honor. And if you want to harvest greatness, you have to honor your mental gate every single day. Not once, not sometimes, always. Stand guard at the door of your mind, because the world is flooding your gate with garbage. It's subtle. It's constant. It's strategic. And if you don't filter it, you will become it. But if you build that wall, if you decide what gets in, if you train yourself to question everything that tries to sneak through the gate, you will become untouchable, calm in chaos, clear in confusion, grounded when the world is shaking. And when people ask you, "How are you so focused? How are you so confident? How do you keep your peace in a world like this?" You'll look them in the eye and say, "I stood guard at the door of my mind, and I never stopped." Because once you start standing guard, something incredible happens. You stop living by default, and you start living by design. You stop reacting, and you begin responding. You stop absorbing everything, and start aligning with the few things that move you forward. You stop chasing clarity in the outside world, and start creating it from the inside. Because clarity is not given to the distracted. It's reserved for the disciplined. It's not handed to the ones who consume the most. It's revealed to the ones who filter with purpose. And that clarity, it becomes your compass, no longer pulled in 10 directions, no longer seeking permission, no longer lost in noise. You know who you are. You know where you're going. And more importantly, you know what doesn't belong anymore. You start subtracting the voices that drain you, subtracting the goals that don't fit you, subtracting the opinions that dilute you, subtracting the doubts that never came from you in the first place. That's what clarity gives you. Not more things to do, but the courage to remove everything that doesn't match your vision. And once you have that, vision opens wide. And I'm not talking about a dream board. I'm talking about a future so vivid it pulls your behavior into alignment. A future so detailed it makes you say no to anything beneath it. A future so real it feels more true than the distractions around you. Because vision is not a wish. It's a decision. And once decided, it begins to rebuild your identity. You don't try to act successful. You become the person who can no longer act like anything else. You don't have to fake confidence. You build clarity so strong, it breeds confidence without a script. And from that place, you move differently. You talk differently. You carry your hours like they're gold. You carry your words like they matter. You stop asking for direction because now you are the direction. That's the power of a mind that's protected. That's what happens when belief isn't borrowed, but built. And real belief is not loud. It doesn't shout to be seen. It doesn't need a crowd. It walks into the room with alignment. It doesn't need approval. It has evidence. It doesn't need motivation. It has clarity. It doesn't need hype. It has vision. And that belief, it becomes a force, a gravitational pull. It reshapes how you show up. It upgrades how you speak to yourself. It shuts down the mental viruses that once ran unchecked. The doubts that used to stay, they don't survive here. The fear that used to paralyze you, it doesn't pass through this gate anymore. Because this mind now has a guard, a filter, a standard, and belief becomes your baseline. Not hope, not hype, but a deep internal knowing that your life is rising because your thinking finally caught up with your calling. Because when belief becomes your baseline, purpose becomes your fuel. You're no longer drifting. You're driven, not by pressure, not by panic, but by meaning. Because now that you've stood guard at the door of your mind, now that the noise is silenced, the fog has cleared, and you can finally hear it, that quiet voice inside of you, whispering, this is why you're here. Not to blend in, not to survive, not to perform for a paycheck. You're here to build, to contribute, to elevate, to lead. And that purpose, it's not found in a title. It's found in impact. It's found in service. It's found in solving the problems your past trained you to fix. You stop thinking, what can I get? And start asking, what am I here to give at the highest level? Because purpose turns your pain into direction, your struggles into strategy, your life into leverage. It gives your work a weight that moves people, a depth that can't be faked, a certainty that can't be shaken. And once you touch that level of purpose, action is no longer optional. You don't wait for perfect plans. You move with purpose on imperfect days. You don't need permission. You've already approved yourself. You stop living on autopilot. You stop giving your best energy to low return activities. You stop starting over because now you build momentum like a machine. Action becomes your language. You speak through execution. You lead with movement. You don't announce what you're building. You become what you build. And that action, it creates evidence. And evidence destroys doubt. Every day you show up, every step you take, every standard you enforce, you are rewriting your internal script. No more self-sabotage. No more waiting for motivation. No more dancing with fear. Because the mind you've now protected, the clarity you've now cultivated, the purpose you've now aligned with, it commands forward motion. Even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it feels like nothing's working. And that's when resilience is born. Not from comfort, but from commitment. Resilience doesn't mean it doesn't shake you. It means you don't stop. You adapt. You adjust. You anchor in identity, not outcome. You no longer fear failure. You repurpose it. You no longer run from resistance. You grow through it because your mind is now trained for battle. You don't crumble when it's heavy. You don't fold under pressure. You don't beg the storm to stop. You become the calm inside it. That's the edge. That's what separates those who dream from those who deliver. And all of it, every ounce of it, started at the gate. It started the moment you said, no more open doors to thoughts that don't serve my future. No more letting my mind be a dumping ground for fear, gossip, comparison, confusion. No more sleeping while my mind is being programmed by a world that wants me small. Now, you guard it. You feed it. You lead it. And in doing so, you lead your life, because this is the moment where it all comes together. The mindset, the belief, the clarity, the vision, the discipline, the purpose, the action, the resilience. It all flows from one sacred choice: to stand guard at the door of your mind. Because when you guard the mind, you protect the mission, you protect your energy, you protect your identity. And when identity is protected, it becomes unshakable. It doesn't shift with rejection. It doesn't break under pressure. It doesn't bend to every opinion that passes by. You begin to live rooted, not just in results, but in who you've become. Because who you've become is now too powerful to play small, too aware to be manipulated, too focused to be distracted, too free to be tamed by noise. Now the mind is clear. And when the mind is clear, the decisions are sharp. The movement is clean. The execution is lethal. You no longer hope for better. You create it. You no longer talk about change. You embody it. You no longer wait for the right time. You are the timing. Because you built a mental fortress. Because you made your mind your ally. Because you said, no more chaos, no more compromise, only clarity, only calling, only conviction. And now you walk with power, quiet, focused, unapologetic, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you finally took full responsibility for the one thing no one else can control: the thoughts that shape your life. You wake up and you command the day. You enter rooms and you change the temperature. You make decisions not from pressure, but from principle. Because your mind is no longer a battleground. It's a blueprint, a place of power, a foundation of fire. So from this moment forward, you live like someone who guards the gate. You speak like someone who trains the mind. You move like someone whose thoughts bow to their purpose. You are not average. You are not reactive. You are not easily swayed. You are sovereign. You are focused. You are mentally bulletproof. Because you made the decision most people never do: to stand guard at the door of your mind, to keep standing when it's easy to let in the noise, to choose clarity when confusion is trending, to choose stillness when the world is screaming. And for that, you will be rewarded with peace, with purpose, with precision, with power. And when they ask how you built this life, when they ask how you broke the cycles, how you created abundance, how you move with such quiet certainty, you'll look them in the eye and say, I guarded my mind like my life depended on it. Because it did, and now I live free. There is a line in the sand. You don't cross it with words. You don't cross it with vision boards or empty motivation. You cross it with one decision, a decision so powerful, it separates the dreamers from the doers, the wanderers from the builders, the lost from the leaders. That line is called responsibility. Because the moment you take full, radical, unapologetic responsibility for your life, everything changes. Not gradually, instantly. Because when you own it all, you unlock it all. The power, the possibility, the process. But most people never cross that line. They flirt with progress. They touch the edges of growth. But they never take full responsibility, because that would mean no more blaming, no more waiting, no more hiding behind someday. And that's terrifying for the average mind, because when you take responsibility, you lose your favorite excuse, the illusion that it wasn't your fault. But here's the truth. Most never dare to face. It may not have been your fault, but it's still your responsibility. Your healing, your growth, your rise. You cannot outsource transformation. You cannot delegate discipline. You cannot rent success on someone else's belief. It has to come from you, because that is when life starts to bend in your favor. Not when you're lucky, but when you're locked into the mindset that says, I don't need perfect conditions. I don't need more time. I don't need anyone else to believe. I believe. I show up. I execute because this is my life, and I refuse to waste it. That's not arrogance. That's ownership. And ownership is the foundation of all transformation. It says, if I created this mess, I can clean it. If I tolerated this standard, I can raise it. If I settled once, I can choose again. Responsibility is not blame. It's not shame. It's power. It's the decision to stop reacting and start reprogramming. Your mind, your habits, your direction, it all starts here. In the moment you stop asking who else needs to change and start asking, what do I need to become? Because the world is full of people waiting for the apology, waiting for the promotion, waiting for the motivation, waiting for someone else to come fix what only they can rebuild. But you're done waiting. You're done hoping. You're done dragging your future behind the weight of your past. You are done being available for victimhood. You are done playing the blame game like it ever paid a dividend. You are done using pain as permission to stay small. You rise now, not because it's easy, but because you finally remembered that you were built for it. And now it's time to go deeper into mindset, into belief, into the kind of mental reprogramming that makes greatness inevitable. Because when responsibility takes root, it does not come quietly. It rewires your entire way of thinking. It turns mindset from a motivational phrase into a militant framework, a framework that says, I no longer take orders from doubt. I no longer consult fear before making decisions. I no longer design my life around the limitations of others. Mindset is not fluff. It's not some feel-good chant you repeat while life walks all over you. Mindset is mental warfare. And if you don't take control of it, someone else or something else will, because your mindset is the engine. It's what powers your direction. And if you've been spinning your wheels, if you've been stuck in a cycle of starting and stopping, of knowing but not doing, of dreaming but not building, it's not because you're weak. It's because your mind has been untrained. You've been trained to cope, not conquer, to survive, not shape, to obey the noise, not activate the vision. But that ends here, because when you take full responsibility, you also take full authority over your thoughts, over your patterns, over your reactions. You start catching the lies you tell yourself. I'm not ready. I'm too late. I don't have the time. You don't accept them anymore. You confront them. You replace them with codes of power. I'm not waiting for clarity. I create it. I'm not behind. I'm being built. I'm not lost. I'm locked in. That's belief, not hype, not borrowed confidence, but earned identity. Because belief without evidence is just noise. But belief built through repetition, resilience, and results, that becomes identity. That becomes your default setting. And when your default setting is belief, you become dangerous. Not because you never fail, but because you never fold. You stop negotiating your standards. You stop diluting your energy for people who don't get it. You stop carrying old versions of yourself into new seasons of opportunity. You walk different. You think different. You move different. And when you upgrade your mindset and ground it in belief, clarity becomes effortless. Clarity is not something you wait for. It's something you earn by stripping away distraction, by removing false options, by refusing to live your life trying to keep every door open. Because clarity is about elimination. It's not, what else can I do? It's, what must I do? And what am I willing to sacrifice to make that happen? Most people stay confused because it's safer than choosing. But you're not most people. You choose. You decide. You commit. And once you're clear, truly clear, you stop showing up as a reaction to the world and start showing up as a force within it. And when clarity hits, when the fog finally lifts, you see it all. Not just where you are, but where you're meant to go. Not just what you've built, but what you've been ignoring. Clarity reveals the gap, the sacred space between your current life and your called life. And it demands an answer. Will you shrink back into safety, or will you stretch into vision? Because vision is not fantasy. It's not decoration for dreamers. It's the seed of destiny, and only the responsible mind can protect it. Only the disciplined heart can build it. Vision says, I'm not here to fit in. I'm here to found something. I'm not here to follow the noise. I'm here to lead through silence. Vision gives your life direction. It is the lens through which you filter your time, your relationships, your opportunities. And once you have it, you don't need 100 options. You need alignment. Vision lets you say no to good things because you're building greatness. And that greatness, it isn't loud. It isn't desperate. It's rooted in purpose. Not just, what do I want to do? But who am I here to become? Purpose doesn't beg for relevance. It breathes legacy. It isn't about success you can post. It's about impact you can't measure. Purpose turns work into worship. It turns time into currency. It turns breath into building blocks of something eternal. And once you move from pressure into purpose, you don't burn out. You burn brighter. You don't beg for direction. You walk like the path already knows your name. But all of that, the clarity, the vision, the purpose, is only as strong as the discipline that backs it. Because discipline is the proof. It's what separates the maybe from the must. It's what says, I don't just want this. I'm becoming this. Discipline is sacred. It's the altar you build every morning with your decisions. It's what keeps the promise alive, long after the mood has died. You don't get to have high-level vision with low-level habits. You don't get to talk legacy while living in compromise. You don't get to play at your calling part-time and expect full-time impact. Discipline says, I don't skip what matters. I don't delay what's aligned. I don't disrespect my future by flirting with inconsistency. You show up, not for applause, but for alignment. Because when responsibility is real, so is discipline. And when discipline becomes your identity, success doesn't need to be chased. It follows you. Because once discipline is in place, action becomes inevitable. You don't wait to be inspired. You become initiation. You don't need a push. You are the momentum. Because aligned action isn't forced. It flows. It flows from belief, from clarity, from purpose that refuses to be ignored. And when you take action from that place, not panic, not comparison, but identity, everything starts to move. Doors that were locked begin to creak open. Connections emerge from nowhere. Opportunities magnetize toward your energy because the universe recognizes movement rooted in truth. But even then, especially then, you don't take it for granted. You walk with gratitude, not the quiet kind, not the soft kind, but the kind that grounds you, that reminds you, this moment is mine. This breath is mine. This season, I prayed for it. I bled for it. I built for it. Gratitude doesn't make you slow. It makes you stable. It keeps you from becoming entitled. It protects you from burnout. It gives weight to the process, value to the small steps, power to the mundane. And when the process gets hard, because it will, that's where adaptability is born. Because you don't just act, you adjust. You don't quit when the plan shifts. You pivot with power. You don't cling to a method. You stay married to the mission. Adaptability is not weakness. It's strategic evolution. It says, the outcome is non-negotiable. But how I get there, that's flexible. It's not about never falling. It's about never losing rhythm when you do. And that rhythm, that ability to keep going, to keep showing up when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, unseen, that's resilience. Resilience is not bouncing back. It's rising different. It's learning from the storm. It's leading through the mess. It's carrying wisdom in your wounds and still choosing to build anyway, because you're no longer afraid of pressure. You're refined by it. You're no longer afraid of silence. You hear yourself in it. You're no longer afraid of being tested. You trust who you've become, and who you've become is someone who can't be shaken, can't be broken, can't be convinced to go back to the old mindset, the old habits, the old year, the old identity, because you've learned that success never comes from outside. It's not handed down. It's called out from within. And the moment it arrived was the moment you said, this is on me, not the market, not the economy, not the algorithm, me, my time, my thoughts, my standards, my structure. And from that moment, success began. Then let's bring it home, not with noise, but with truth, not with hype, but with honor, not with a whisper, but with a war cry from the soul. Because now you know, you've seen it, you've felt it, you've walked through the fire of realization and come out ready to stop blaming, ready to stop waiting, ready to stop rehearsing the same excuses that have kept generations bound. And now you are the one who breaks the chain, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger, not because someone saved you, but because you finally stood up for yourself. Because when you took full responsibility, you stopped living like a victim of your story and started living like the author of it. No more passive prayers. No more conditional effort. No more, I'll start when. You've already started. You've already crossed the line. You've already activated the one decision that separates the remembered from the forgotten. And that decision is this: I will take full responsibility for everything I become. Not just the results, but the process. Not just the applause, but the silence. Not just the success, but the structure. Because success isn't something you wait for. It's something you rise into. It begins the moment you say, I am the one who decides. And now you've decided. You've decided that average is not your inheritance. You've decided that waiting is not your legacy. You've decided that your life is not random. It's crafted by what you build, what you believe, and what you're willing to hold yourself accountable for daily. You are not the victim. You are the vessel. You are not the excuse. You are the evidence. You are not the story they told you to live. You are the story they'll tell when someone asks, what does it look like when a person truly takes ownership of their life? And from this day forward, you will live like it, move like it, build like it, earn like it, lead like it. Because success begins the moment you take full responsibility. And that moment is now. Now go, write it, live it, be it. Success is not complicated. It's not a mystery. It's not a secret code waiting to be cracked by the chosen few. It is simple, clear, predictable, but it is not convenient. And that is why most never taste it because they're not willing to be inconvenienced. They want the treasure without the trial, the power without the process, the crown without the calluses. But the truth is brutal in its simplicity. Success does not respond to desire. It responds to discipline. It doesn't show up for the hopeful. It shows up for the hungry, the ones willing to bleed for it in silence, the ones who trade convenience for consequence, the ones who show up when motivation dies and only mission remains. You see, the path to success is not hidden. It's just hard. And that's what filters the committed from the curious. That's what separates the amateurs from the architects. Because success is not complicated. You want better health? Eat with discipline, train with focus, sleep with intention. You want wealth? Solve real problems, master your craft, deliver uncommon value. You want peace? Cut toxic people, honor your word, stop betraying your own soul. We know what to do. We just don't like what it takes. Because what it takes will cost you. It will cost you your comfort, your distractions, your laziness, your need for approval, your obsession with ease. And most aren't willing to pay that price. So they search for a shortcut, a hack, a magic formula. And when they don't find it, they quit not because it was too hard, but because it was too inconvenient. Convenience is the killer of greatness. It whispers, you've done enough. You can skip today. You deserve a break. But the ones who rise, they hear that voice and keep moving anyway. Because they've decided. They've drawn a line. They've said, I don't need it to be easy. I need it to be worth it. So they show up, tired, unseen, uncelebrated. They show up when no one's watching. They do the reps. They say no to the things that make others clap and yes to the things that build legacy. They are not driven by convenience. They are driven by conviction. And conviction is forged in mindset, the foundation, the lens through which you see every obstacle, the filter that says, this pain is not punishment, it's preparation. This resistance is not a stop signal, a signal. This delay is not denial, it's development. Your mindset must be built like armor, not cute quotes, not empty affirmations, but a code, a relentless internal agreement that says, I will not bow to ease. I will not surrender to average. I will not stop until what I see in my head exists in the world. Because if you don't own your mind, the world will lease it out to fear, to doubt, to comfort. And once your mind is compromised, so is your future. That's why belief matters. Not the belief others have in you, the belief you have in you. Because there will be days you are the only one who sees the vision. And on those days, you must carry it alone. You must protect it like fire in the rain. You must keep building when there's no evidence it will work. Because belief is the bridge between where you are and where you're going. And belief is not born from results. Belief is born from resistance. From every moment you could have quit but didn't. From every morning you rose again, despite the storm. From every quiet promise you kept to yourself. Success is not complicated, but it is reserved. Reserved for the ones who align their beliefs with their behavior. Who stop talking and start transforming. Who stop posting and start producing. Who stop waiting for a better time and realize now is all they've got. Now is the moment. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Not when it's easier. Now, because success responds to urgency, and urgency is not panic. Urgency is clarity with speed. It's knowing what matters most and moving on it without hesitation. But most people never move. Not because they don't know, but because they're still waiting for it to feel right. Here's the truth. It won't feel right. It'll feel hard. It'll feel awkward. It'll feel inconvenient. And that's how you know it's the right thing. If it's convenient, it won't change you. If it's easy, it won't stretch you. If it's comfortable, it won't elevate you. You don't grow from what's painless. You grow from what's necessary. You grow when you stop asking, is this fun? And start asking, is this fruitful? Because success isn't built in dopamine. It's built in discipline. And discipline is the daily decision to become who your future requires. Because once discipline becomes your language, clarity becomes your compass. And clarity is power. It cuts through the noise. It silences the second guessing. It tells you exactly where to go when life tries to fog your windshield with fear and distraction. Clarity is not found, it is forged. Forged in solitude. Forged in silence. Forged when you're brutally honest enough to admit, I've been busy, but I haven't been effective. I've been moving, but I haven't been aligned. Because motion isn't progress. And speed means nothing if it's taking you in the wrong direction. That's why you must stop, strip back, and stare your life in the face. What are you doing that matters? Who are you becoming in the process? Are you chasing goals that look good? Or goals that feel right in your gut, deep in your soul? That's the work most avoid. Because clarity costs comfort. It forces you to admit that some things, some people, some habits, some patterns can't come with you. Clarity makes your yes sharper and your no sacred. It demands alignment over approval. It demands direction over speed. And once you have it tons, you can see that North Star with your own eyes. You act. You don't wait for confidence. You build confidence with action. Because action is the antidote to fear. Action is the cure for confusion. Action is the difference between the dreamers and the doers. You don't need more information. You need implementation. You need to stop hoarding knowledge like it's treasure and start deploying it like it's a weapon. The world doesn't need more thinkers. It needs more builders, more movers, more people who understand that hesitation is the slowest form of failure. And once you move once, you put your hands on the plow and your feet to the pavement, purpose awakens. Purpose doesn't wait on a perfect calling. Purpose is activated by execution, by doing the thing again and again until the why reveals itself in the doing. Purpose is not a path you find. It's a fire you build, and you build it through service, through mastery, through contribution so deep that the world shifts because you existed. Purpose is what you fight for when convenience would be easier. It's the voice that says, keep going when everyone else has stopped. It's the anchor that holds you in storms and the wind that carries you in silence. And when purpose, clarity, discipline, and action converge you, enter the realm of excellence. Not success. Excellence. Because success is a moment. Excellence is a standard. It's not about doing things well. It's about doing them with intention, with integrity, with intensity. Excellence doesn't ask, is this enough? It asks, is this my best? It doesn't settle for what's allowed. It reaches for what's rare. Excellence is the daily decision to live above the line, to do what most won't, for reasons they'll never understand. It is lonely. It is inconvenient, but it is where the legendary live. And if you want that life, if you want that impact, you must fall in love with the inconvenient. Because success is not complicated. It is simply a matter of how much you're willing to endure for who you're willing to become. Then brace yourself, because we are going deeper now into the trenches, into the silence, into the sacred war between who you are and who you must become. Because once you choose excellence, once you choose discipline, once you stop asking for ease and start asking for truth, you will be tested. And this is where resilience enters the ring. Not the kind you post about, the kind you bleed for, the kind built in moments when no one sees you, when your hands are shaking and your faith is thin and everything in you screams, stop, but you don't. You breathe. You stand. You go again. Because success is not built by strength. It's built by stamina. Resilience is not how loud you roar, it's how long you endure. It's not about winning every round. It's about showing up to everyone, no matter how many hits you took in the last. It's easy to grind when it's working. It's easy to post when the numbers are climbing. But what about when nothing is happening? What about when no one's clapping? What about when the door stays shut and the silence gets loud? That's the forge. That's where you decide if you're here for praise or for purpose, for followers or for fire, for comfort or for contribution. And in that space, in that silent, invisible battlefield, you'll meet sacrifice. Because greatness will ask for something in return. It will ask for your laziness, your indecision, your scrolling, your comfort binge, your fake friendships, your victim story. And you'll have to lay them down. Not because you're being punished, because you're being reborn. You cannot carry both comfort and calling. One will break under the weight of the other. Sacrifice isn't about pain. It's about priority. It's the proof that your dream isn't just a wish, it's a non-negotiable. You want to rise? Something must fall. You want to ascend? Something must end. The old you, the small you, the easy you, the addicted to convenience version of you. He dies here. She lets go here, right now, because there is no room on the mountaintop for what held you in the valley. And once you've sacrificed what no longer serves you, you step into the rarest form of power inner mastery. The world will tell you mastery is about control. Control of your craft, your results, your circumstances. But real mastery, it's control of your inner world. It's the ability to stay centered while everything around you spins. It's the ability to act when you're afraid, to love when you're angry, to hold your ground when the pressure says fold. Inner mastery is what separates the driven from the destined. It's when you no longer react to life, you respond with precision. You speak with intention. You walk with alignment. You build with soul. And in this state, nothing owns you. Not your emotions, not your critics, not your failures, not even your success. Because you've already won the real war, the one inside. And now the world feels it. The room shifts when you enter. Not because you're loud, but because you're anchored. Not because you're perfect, but because you're whole. And this is the soul of it all. The truth that echoes beyond any goal, beyond any trophy. Success is not complicated. It's just not convenient. And most will choose comfort. But a few, a sacred few, will choose becoming. They'll rise. They'll sacrifice. They'll master. They'll endure. And when the world looks up and asks how, you won't say luck. You won't say timing. You'll say, I made a decision to live a life that mattered more than my comfort. You'll say, I chose inconvenience because the future version of me was worth it. Then stand tall, spirit steady, heart open, because this is the moment we finish what we started. This is not a conclusion. This is a declaration. This is not a summary. This is a summoning, a call to the part of you that's been silent for too long, a call to the warrior, the architect, the flame bearer inside you, the one who doesn't flinch when things get hard, the one who doesn't fold when life gets loud, the one who doesn't trade their calling for convenience, because now you see it. It was never complicated. It was never hidden. It was right in front of you the whole time. A path paved with truth, discipline, clarity, purpose, and fire. But that path, it was never meant to be comfortable. Because comfort is where dreams go to die quietly, where legends are lulled to sleep, where potential turns into regret. So you rise, not because it's easy, not because it's trendy, but because your spirit demanded more. You rise because ease is no longer your compass, excellence is. You rise because you've outgrown the excuses, the delay, the waiting for the right time. This is the right time because you are now the right person, the person who no longer needs approval, the person who no longer seeks permission, The person who doesn't just dream, but builds, brick by brick, habit by habit, decision by decision, day after inconvenient day. And through the pain, the pressure, the price, you become free. Free from mediocrity. Free from the lie that you're not enough. Free from the systems that sedated your greatness. Because now, you've earned it. Not the spotlight, not the title, but something far more powerful. Self-respect. The rare kind. The kind that's built in private and seen in public. The kind that walks into any room and doesn't need to say a word. Because your life speaks louder. Your habits speak louder. Your standards speak louder. And so the world won't remember you for what you said. It will remember you for what you withstood. What you refused to quit on. What you became in the fire. Because in the end, that's the only thing that matters. Not what you hit. Not what you held. But who you became. And now, with nothing left to prove and everything left to give, you take your next step. Not fast, not frantic, but with finality, with fire, with certainty, because you no longer wait for life to hand you greatness. You forge it with blood, with truth, with urgency, with soul. And you whisper to yourself, one last time, success is not complicated. It's just not convenient. But I don't need convenience. I was born to rise.